Cragganmore Distillery was founded in 1869 by John Smith, also known as Big John because of his enormous size. Smith was a very experienced distiller who had already managed Macallan, Glenlivet, Glenfarclas, and Wishaw distilleries. Smith was also a smart businessman because he not only chose its site to be close to the water from Cragganburn, but also because it was next to the proposed Strathspey Railway. This was the very first distillery to use the railway to transport their whiskey, but also bring in coal, barley, and other supplies needed to run the distillery. John Smith died in 1886, and brother George led a trusteeship to run the business until 1893, when Smith's son Gordon took over. In 1901, Gordon hired the brilliant distillery architect Charles Doig to rebuild Cragganmore. Gordon Smith, still a young man, died in 1912, and his widow wife Mary Jane had to manage the distillery. Mary Jane continued to modernize Cragganmore, installing a Kohler generator and electric lighting. In 1923, the distillery was sold to the partnership of Peter Mackey and Sir George Macpherson Grant. In 1927, due to the DCL merger, the corporation gained 50% of Cragganmore. It wasn't until 1965 that DCL finally bought out the other 50% of the company, and that eventually morphed into Diageo. A 7-ton state-of-the-art loader mash tun was installed in 1997. The stainless steel tub is wrapped in pine and crowned with the old mash tun's copper dome. The wash ferments 60 to 90 hours in 6 30,000-liter pine washbacks, and that wood contributes to the whiskey's unique taste. The 2 wash stills are charged to 9,400 liters with angled lin arms descending into the worm tubs. The smaller charged 6,000-liter spirit stills have unique flat tops with down-angled lin arms sticking out of the top side of the neck of the still. From the flat-top stills, the spirit cools in the old traditional worm tubs, which also add to the complex nature of this distillate. In 1988, the Cragganmore 12-year-old became one of the 6 classic malts of United Distillers, which is now Diageo. Its complex nature has been top-rated as a Class A malt for blending. There are 3 on-site warehouses which house bourbon, sherry, and port finished casks. Cragganmore is such a sought-after malt for blenders such as Johnnie Walker, Old Parr, and White Horse, and also is a small distillery with only a couple million liters production annually, so not a lot of that whiskey is available for single malts. The Strathspey rail line no longer runs to Cragganmore, and the tracks have been removed to make way for a hiking trail. Cragganmore has a visitor center that does tours of the distillery as well as tastings of their whiskey. Cragganmore is 12 miles southwest of Craigellachie next to the Spey River via Highway A95. Well, welcome to Noel's World of Whiskey, and today we are going to go after a very unknown distillery. I would call it the unknown distillery. It's just a distillery that not a lot of people know about. If they've heard about it, it's vague. Cragganmore. Now, the funny thing about Cragganmore is, yeah, it's unknown, but it's been around a long time, since the 1860s. And it was started by a brilliant distiller of his day, John Smith. And I do a presentation, you can follow it. It's worth watching because he was quite an amazing man. His nickname was Big John because he was enormous for his time. He was a big guy for his time. And this particular whiskey and this distillery is basically one of the first to be part of the Classic Malts that United Distillers, which eventually became Diageo, that they present. And of course they've added on since then. So, but anyways, its notoriety is that it is supposed to be the most complex single malt of the Strathspey malts. So we're going to find out, is it? Now this is 40%. and I've been doing a lot of 46s, 43s, cask strengths, 50 pluses. So I'm going to use my Shootout glass because it's better for nosing, and I thought with a 40% I'll be able to nose it a little better. So let's get into it. To start off with, let's get a peek of the bottle. Now, we do know, I'll just grab my glasses here, so we do know that Diageo is famous for their added color, and at 40% I can pretty much guarantee you that there is added color to it. And they are also famous for their chill filtering. But one of our reviewers said the reason this is not a well-known whiskey and it doesn't get seen much in the liquor store is because of the label. I love this label, but maybe he's right. Maybe from a distance on a shelf you're just not going to notice it, even though I really do like the bottle and the label. This is not their regular. This is not their regular bottling. This is the Distillers edition. It's a 12-year-old whiskey, and it is a port finish. So we did a port shootout there not too long ago, and I did show you this whiskey during the port shootout, but it wasn't included because it was 40, and we were doing a lot of 46s at the time. But anyways, we might just get a chance to, to go up against the winners of that. And the winners, I believe, were the Glendronach and the Springbank. Now, some of you might be interested in just looking at the box. There's nothing special about the box. It's basically your typical. I kind of like the graphics on it there. I like the older graphics, but again, it might not stand out on a shelf. Put a bit of information on the back here. I'm not going to read it to you, but it's your typical Diageo information telling us that it is port casks and it is 12 years old. So there you are again, one of my favorites here. We'll open up the bottle and we're going to find out how complex this whiskey is. So now we're going to pour a dram, let it sit for a little bit and let it breathe, and I will show you the color of it in the glass. Now I'm going to say that Diageo, one thing they don't do is they don't overcolor the whiskey like Dalmore does. Dalmore I think goes way over the top with their added color, where I'm going to say that these guys, it's slightly colored. Let's give it the nose. It's got quite a meaty nose. We've got some umami notes here. Oh, I would say this is definitely got some morphing going on here. It's really changing here all of a sudden. Something between a caramel and a citrus, and even maybe some dark fruits. I'm not sure which port they're using. Is it a tawny port? Is it a ruby port? Is it a white port cask finish? Because they don't tell us how long either. But there's definitely a mix of dark and your lighter fruits. Ripe, floral, and alfalfa honey. It's got a very, very rich and meaty nose for a 40. One of the richer noses I've smelled for a 40. And again, we got a little bit of morphing going on here, because I'm getting a bit of licorice now. Now, I know they use a lightly peated malt on this. They used to do their own maltings, their own floor maltings. They discontinued that in the late part of the 20th century there, and now Diageo purchases, maltings in the area. They have their own maltings. So, anyways, a very good nose. It's a rich nose. We're going to continue here. I'm all excited here of everything all the research I've done, and I will be in this distillery in May. So Cragganmore, Craigellachie, and Aberlour, Glenross, all those distilleries. So this is kind of exciting because I have never had a Cragganmore before that I'm aware of. I have had it through Johnnie Walker and through a White Horse that I drank years ago. But there we are. Cheers. Boy, this is remnants of Craigellachie, Loch Lomond, Mortlach. Yeah, I see what when they're talking about a meaty, umami, savory, for 40%. This is a sleeper. Boy, there's a lot here. I've got licorice in the back of my tongue, maybe even some fennel, slightly metallic. There's I think the peat's dancing around on my tongue. I can taste a little bit of that, but at the back of my tongue still a little slight metallic. I say meaty, there's a pork chop. And I'm getting, I did get a little bit of the honey notes there, but I was more focused on, because we got multiple layers coming at you at once here, and I'm going after the stuff that is dominant here. And again, it was the that Craigellachie signature. I had a little bit of that. I had a little bit of the Loch Lomond signature, and I had a little bit of the Mortlach. It seemed all at once. I drink enough of those that I guarantee you. This is a very interesting whiskey. A 40, I can't believe it. What the heck would this be if it was a 46? Anyways, I am going to top it off. I'm not going to say it's a long finish, so that's why I'm going to. I'm going for the development here. So much. Now we're getting dates. We're getting the figs. We're getting prunes, all dried fruit. It's like a big mix of dry fruit, and that of course brings into the Christmas goodies, the Christmas cake, the Christmas pudding, but it's mixed in with those umami notes, the savory notes, and baking spices. Wee bit of granola, something malty, maybe digestive biscuits. I've got these flax. They're like digestive, but they're a flax biscuit. A little bit of that, like a cracker biscuit, yeah. So, the arrival was, there was a lot of impact for a 40% ABV. There was a lot of impact on the arrival. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting something different because everywhere I researched, they talked about it being rated as a Class A malt for blending. And that's why it's so sought after. And because it's not a big distillery and there isn't a huge production, kind of like the distilleries like Edredor, they can never keep up because they just don't have the size of the production. And it does a couple million liters, a little over a couple million liters a year. But it has 3 warehouses on site. But a lot of the whiskey does get tanked out of there for their blends. White Horse, most of it I think does go to the Johnnie Walker, Old Par. But it is a sought-after whiskey for blending, and I get it. I know, I can see why. So the unusual thing is the stills. The spirit still has a flat top. It's almost like they chopped it off, and there's all sorts of stories about that. But it does, contribute to the taste of the whiskey, according to the distillery and a lot of the research I did. The lid arm is below the top. It's at the top of the neck, and it goes out the side and then through the wall down to the worm tubs. Now, there's a lot of different factors that contribute to this unique taste. Number one, they're the only stills like that in Scotland, and probably the only stills in the world like that. Now, there is flat top stills. I mean, you've got flat top stills at some of the other distilleries. I believe Pulteney has flat top stills, and of course we know where you get flat top stills, where you have the coffee stills, and of course column stills. But a lot of that is contributing to the reflux. Now, before we even get to the stills, we have wooden washbacks, and they contribute to the distillate's taste. And I really believe worm tubs are huge, because every distillery that has a worm tub, I can almost identify it by the taste. You don't have to tell me. I can taste the difference. And I don't think I could have in the past, but now, I can identify that taste from a worm tub. And I really believe that that's because my palate has developed. I really like those stills that are still using worm tubs. So anyways, enough babbling. Let's get into the finish. Solange. All I can say is I can't understand why this isn't a better known distillery. There's been a lot of explanations for it, and this is a unique whiskey. I mean, I'm drinking a 40 ABV, and I don't usually get excited about 40 ABV. This is exceptional. This has got the body of a 46 ABV, 48 ABV. There's a lot here. If they've chill filtered it, by golly, what would this be if they didn't chill filter it? So what I taste is, I'm tasting peat. I'm tasting a bit of honey mixed in with that peat. That's the port casks, I think, are being identified by the dates, the mixture of the dates, and also the lighter fruits, pears, even some raisins. We're getting, like I say, the Christmas presentation. The metallic taste isn't there right now. It's subsided, but I'm still getting the licorice. That's the black licorice. I'm getting I'm getting teased on my tongue with that peat, and I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I don't think it's charred casks. There is definitely the umami notes, the meatiness to it. I'm almost getting the barbecue sauce happening here now. It's not a long finish, but it's longer than most 40s, that's for sure. Impressive, that's all I'm going to say. And I'm being sincere about this because I'm not. I don't. I purchased this a long time ago, and I just wasn't excited about doing it. And then I started researching it one day, and I knew nothing about the distillery. This was just a curiosity thing. I bought it on curiosity because it wasn't the regular presentation; it was the port presentation, and I do like Port Finished Whiskies. And when I did the shootout, the port shootout, I brought this out for the first time, and I don't know how long I had looked at it, just to show that, you know, other port whiskeys, but we did not have it in the tasting. It wasn't part of the tasting. And, you know, I suddenly took an interest in this because I ended up purchasing a Tullibardine, the Murray, that is a port. It's a triple port cask finish. It's white, ruby and tawny port. It's 3 different finishes. And they're a little more transparent. They get transparent there. They give you a little more information than Diageo does. But yeah, this is not something I expect to have been excited about. But it is quite a unique whiskey. It's one of those whiskeys that I feel like I've got to have one last sip, and then I can score it. So let's do that. Let's call this the finish, okay? Solange, the honest finish. So the easiest way for me to describe this is to start off with short medium finish, but when I went immediately to Cragganmore and Loch Lomond and Mortlach, and I put all 3 together, I think I'm close to what this is. But the impact, remember it's a 40, the impact is smooth. There's not a lot of sharp notes here. There's definitely a strong presentation, but it's not nasty. It's not a clean whiskey. I'm going to say it's a little on the dirty side, but it's not nasty, and it's more probably a little more presentable than the Loch Lomond, because in terms of being smooth, I shouldn't say presentable. I'm going to say it doesn't have the sharp, spiky notes that the Loch Lomond has, because the Loch Lomond's a 46 and this is a 40. If we and also the Cragganmore, which is also 46, it's closer to the Mortlach, which is of course 43.4 or whatever it is. So short medium finish. It has I think a very, very strong meaty body to it for a 40% whiskey, and I think it's something that I am so glad that I went and decided to open this, because it is definitely a very interesting whiskey, and I could say something in the neighborhood of delicious. I'm pretty excited about this stuff. I get a surprise every once in a while. I don't always get them, but this is a surprise. For a 40 ABV, wasn't expecting it. How am I going to score it? Might get the best 40 ABV score I've given in a long time. So this has got to be at 85 to 86. And I'm not giving you lip service. This stuff is good. You know, most people are not going to run out and grab this. There was one reviewer said the reason that this whiskey is not popular, and when I say it's not popular, this is the second lowest sales for a single malt for Diageo. Remember, it doesn't have as many single malts as, let's say, a Mortlach or let's say a Cardew, or a Singleton, or I mean those are producing so much in the way of single malts, I expect them to be popular. Talisker, Lagavulin. There's a lot of competition out there. This has got very few presentations. I mean, could explain why. One person mentioned the label on the box, the bottle. That could have something to do with it. Another person said, you know, it's a great presentation for blenders. They love it. They can't keep up with the blenders. It's an A1 grading. That's as high as it goes for a blended malt. It's at the top. But they feel that it is not for the average drinker. It's the presentation isn't for the average drinker. Am I an average drinker? This is unreal. You know, so you got to watch what you read, and this still might go unheard of as the unknown distillery, and it's a shame because I think you should go out and get a bottle. Now remember, this is the port finish. I have not tried any other Cragganmores, so I am not an expert on the Cragganmore. This is my first experience with them, and it's been a damn good experience. There is the 12-year presentation. I would really like to try that. I'm going to look for others when I'm over in Cragganmore there at the distillery. I will certainly be trying, you know, some more of their malts. So I'm going to finish on that note. So I'm going to ask you to drink wisely, drink intelligently, and do not drink and drive. And until the next time, so much.